Hi, my name is Christopher Carr. This short film celebrates one of the most important architects of the 20th century, John Lautner, by charting the progress of a small traveling exhibit which showcased large-scale models of two of his most exciting works, the Pearlman Cabin, built in 1957 in Idlewild, California, and the Walstrom Residence just outside of Los Angeles, which was constructed in 1969. In the late 1930s, John Lautner had joined Frank Lloyd Wright's famous architectural studio, Taliesin, as an apprentice. Wright's organic architecture, his emphasis on blending structures harmoniously with their natural surroundings, had a lasting impact on Lautner's design philosophy. Inspired by the desert landscape of Arizona, Wright decided to establish a winter retreat where he and his apprentices could escape the harsh winters of Wisconsin and continue their architectural work year-round. So, in 1937, Wright purchased 600 acres of land near Scottsdale. John Lautner played a significant role in the establishment of Taliesin West, as it became known, having to rely on his creativity and resourcefulness to build the structures, using local materials and adapting to the harsh desert environment. So in the fall of 2022, when two impressive 1-inch to a foot models of Lautner's Walstrom and Pearlman houses were heading for storage, it felt entirely fitting that a final spotlight should be cast upon these fascinating projects at the School of Architecture, the offspring of Frank Lloyd Wright's School of Architecture, temporarily located at Arcosanti, Paolo Soleri's experimental city outside of Arizona.
I was contacted by Chris Carr in October of 2022, and he invited us to participate in the exhibition to be installed and hosted at Arcosanti, which is one of the school's campuses. He proposed that the exhibition open in November, so with 4 weeks to put together this project, I, of course, said yes. I invited the students to participate, and they were really excited about this project. It was an opportunity for them to work together and collaborate, not just among themselves, but with these two great organizations, the OA&D Archives and the John Lautner Foundation.
Arcosanti is around for about 60 years. It's still a work in progress, and we have a space called the Bell Tower. And below it used to be where people would be housed and live, and it's a beautiful space that was badly in need of repair and some tender loving care.
This exhibition was an opportunity to learn by doing, and the students really came together to renovate the gallery spaces at Arcosanti and also discover problems along the way that they had to solve. At one point, they took out the power of the entire building, almost the entire building. Couldn't find the breaker, and that was a learning by doing experience.
And so the students with Stephanie went in and ripped out a wall and a door, put drywall up, and took two spaces and made it into one large space. So each exhibit, each model was able to be in each space. The designing of it, the placement of it, and the bringing of the exhibition to Arcosanti was a learning experience from the beginning.
The larger 1-inch to a foot scale models traveled to Arizona with a special licensed courier. Driving down the curvy, rut-filled narrow road down the side of the plateau on which Arcosanti sits was just the beginning of the challenging effort to transfer the models into the double galleries. Here are the drawings to help plan the models' twists and turns to get them through the 35-inch door opening at Paolo Soleri's landmark building.
Clear here.
Okay.
And then, of course, there was the process of installing itself, and this was in collaboration with Chris Carr and Wiehle, who came out for a few days, visited Arcosanti, spent time with the students, and that kind of extended period of exposure where, we're working together, we're living together, we're talking about the exhibition over the course of several days. That's another facet of learning by doing that this exhibition offered.
My partner at Wiehle Carr Architecture, Louis Wiehle, has a unique perspective on organic architecture. Having been an apprentice at Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin, the hat signifying the master's attendance, and a draftsman for Lautner, working from his Hollywood home back in 1951.
The students planning the exhibition had tremendous energy and wonderful attention and a kind of excitement that was pervasive. And I know they're very busy with other things. So altogether, it was a important and enjoyable experience. The collegial atmosphere and camaraderie was very much akin to the one John Lautner would have experienced there years before, absorbing the principles Wright originated and defined as organic architecture. In terms of the energy that the students were putting into helping to mount the exhibition, it reminded me, of course, very much of my years at Taliesin myself. And the selfless involvement in getting a good result, it was very heartening.
Especially when we walked into the spaces as the materials were put there, realized that the spaces spoke to each of the models themselves. We have one with a circular volume in the public area of the Pearlman House, and the other Walstrom Residence had a square form to it. And these spaces had that personality already. It was like the spaces knew that these models were to come there at some point.
I don't think most students have actually visited the sites of these actual buildings, but you get a sense here of how they connect to their climate and how you would circulate around the buildings and how you would enter them, which is not always obvious when it comes to Lautner because he's always very creative in terms of the circulation, but also the way that these models are cut away is just so beautifully didactic because you can really sort of project yourself into the building. You can really get a sense of how grounded these projects are and how organically connected they are to their sites, but also in how they project outwards. So it's been really interesting. I was almost hugging these models. It felt like I was like connected to them, literally.
It is vital to an architecture student to have touch points within architectural history, to see the work of a great architect up close, to encounter the hand-drawn plans, to see the models which you can even stick your head inside and inhabit. These are great ways of understanding that you are, as a student, part of a continuum of architectural history.
The exhibition itself features two beautiful gems of houses that we can really learn from and relate to our own curriculum at the School of Architecture. Students in their final year of their degree program at the school, they end up building small structures called shelters. So the kind of small scale of Lautner's houses, their modesty, their attention to context, I think these are all ways of learning from Lautner's work, giving the students an opportunity to kind of translate these ideas into their own projects.
Nestled among the San Jacinto Mountains of Riverside County stands John Lautner's Pearlman Mountain Cabin. It's one of his most modest designs, but perhaps expresses best the essence of organic architecture. Built as a summer retreat for a family of accomplished musicians, the cabin blends supremely with its natural surroundings. A living extension of the forests all around, Lautner constructed the cabin using materials sourced from the location where it stands. The roof rests on a row of giant tree trunks, each different in height and thickness. Enormous sheets of glass are set directly into the logs, forming a zigzag pattern, which when viewed from inside renders the window panes transparent. The window frames remain hidden out of view above the ceiling. It's as if there are no windows there at all. A sanctuary for the soul, it invites all who enter to experience the profound beauty of the natural world.
The scale of the model is much larger than we would usually build. And what's interesting about them is that they have a lot of landscape built in them. It's been amazing to think about how they relate to the natural landscape and how they relate to an intervention, and actually to the kind of like bold volumetric moves that Lautner makes. And that's something that I think resonates really well with people, even if they don't have an architectural background. It's kind of like wow factor type thing, to use real estate speak.
The Walstrom Residence was built in 1969, the year of Woodstock and the moon landings. The original owner, Douglas Walstrom, was a prominent engineer in the aerospace industry. His wife, Octavia, was herself ever present during the building work. Situated in the Bel Air region of Los Angeles, the house is built against a steep hillside, only slightly adjusted for the construction. It boasts a skillful use of asymmetrical shapes and layout, and an innovative use of wood inside and out. Built from deliberately rough, laminated wood with tall windows, walking through it is like visiting a nested spot in lush woodland. Long wooden window frames, higher than the tree canopy outside, allow the interior to be bathed in natural light, tempered only by large diagonal stripes of timber added for privacy. It has the cozy charm of a cabin, but its soaring high ceiling evokes a sense of grandeur at the same time. The toilet is cloaked by bookcases with a secluded balcony perched above, like a bird's nest. The bedrooms are downstairs, where the back wall is made of glass, with a view over an internal garden, lit by a large opening bringing sunlight to all the rooms.
I think it was the Walstrom Residence, which is roughly a square or orthogonal building, started out as a series of circles and spirals that is more akin to the Pearlman Residence. And so those early drawings and the early inspirations for the project are what drew me in, but then also started to spark the conversation between the two projects. So then instead of having the original instantiation of the exhibition at Arcosanti, where it was two separate rooms and almost two separate projects, here at Architekton, then we could start to tease out some of these elements and bring them more into conversation.
As 2022 came to a close, it was time to take the models on the road once more, this time to Architekton's headquarters in Tempe, Arizona.
When we had this opportunity to install the exhibition a second time, I reached out to one of our faculty, who's an architect at Architekton, and asked him if the firm would be open to hosting this exhibition. And we, again, very rapidly started thinking about how to adapt the first version of the exhibition to a new location. At Architekton, the space is bigger. It was one continuous space, and this presented a new challenge to think about how to adapt the content and the materials and the models into a new space.
The way that John Lautner's exhibition here has affected not only me, but many people in the office, being able to see his drawings, looking at how the Pearlman Cabin, for example, the fact that we can see how Lautner designed a really complicated roof structure where we had a truss that was, acting on two axes that was being balanced by these beautiful wood columns, being, having it blend in, and then also being resolved through wonderful engineering done by hand and looking at these drawings, is really kind of one aspect in the technical in the technical aspects of what we do every day in architecture. Lautner's work is one of many apprentices' work that we don't get to see very often, and the fact that we had access throughout these months was really great.
John Lautner began his career designing small and fitting homes for middle-class professionals. His goal was of freeing architecture to make life better for everyone. In his words, to create timeless, free, joyous spaces for all activities in life. To see Lautner's purposeful philosophy in action, it's worth taking a look at the 1966 Marina View Heights project, set on a California hillside overlooking Dana Point Harbor. The project was never fully realized, but it was to be a remarkable community of modest apartments and homes, as well as hotel, spa, and retail. An inspiring forethought of what architecture could give to a better life for all. There was a stunning diversity of form in architecture, as Lautner envisioned it, that tested the capabilities of building materials and the limits of structure. The concrete cantilever, seen here at Mar Brisa, and in his Desert Hot Springs project, the cantilever aided by exposed steel frame. The steel web in tension, seen here at the Jacobson House. And the arc, the core element of the Garcia House. The diagonal in wood at the Walstrom House. This is Lautner's own original model. All of this going to serve the custom creation of interior space. In Lautner's later years, those who came to him seeking this environmental freedom were mostly among the very rich. Yet the call of his concept of architecture was always a message applicable to all levels of housing anywhere in the world.
Lautner created an architecture that is unique in history and cannot be derived from the repetition of building styles that have only become habits. The only absolute, he reasoned, is change, growth, life.
His designs are not similar, they're completely different in inspirations and styles because he took the inspiration from the site. He did not copy himself, and that was an interesting point to notice about his work and to be inspired by as a graduate student.
John Lautner is kind of the poster child, from my perspective, of what Frank Lloyd Wright, someone who broke away from Frank Lloyd Wright and was able to really express and develop their own voice. And I thought that was a really interesting thing for students today to begin to learn, because I think developing your own voice and design voice based on a very strong philosophy or mentorship is one of the most important things to be able to survive in the world of design and architecture.
I felt the educational impact of the exhibition really started to come together whenever we were actually taking the exhibition down. And it was just me and Stephanie in the room, and we were listening to music, and my job was to take down all of the the text and the titles and the drawings from the walls. And so I was prying at the foam core, trying to get it off. And I think in that moment, I was able to really look at the work up close and personal and see the matrix of design and history and theory come together while I was just laboring and listening to music and taking the work in.
These students, I personally was very happy in meeting them and their focus on the project and their ability to pitch in and help and work. It's a good indication of how they're going to be as architects. So altogether, it was a outstanding example of how wannabe architects get the energy to finish very interesting and personal projects.
The closing ceremony for the exhibition featured a speaking occasion during which we had the opportunity to listen to key players, such as architects Eddie Jones, John Kane, and historian Alan Hess. Online, you can find that, and also links to the John Lautner Foundation and the OA&D Archives website, where you can search the catalog and perhaps subscribe to our journal. There are also online resources to explore for both the School of Architecture and Architekton in Tempe, Arizona. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video.